Before we begin Unit 15, here is the answer to the Unit 14 question. The best answer is choice C.
Overpopulation is considered to be the root cause of many of our environmental problems. We've used fossil fuels to manage our food production, which so far has been able to sustain our enormous population. Even with our advances in technology, eventually our food productivity will no longer be able to keep up with the world's population. When the fossil fuels run out or become economically unavailable, there is no guarantee that widespread famine will be avoided by applying renewable energy, especially if our population continues to grow exponentially. Unit 15, Food for Thought.
Environmental resistance determines the maximum number of organisms that can survive in a specific area, and availability of food is one of the major factors determining carrying capacity.
People must eat in order to survive, so it makes sense that much time, energy, and resources have been dedicated to providing enough nutritious food to ensure that all may live healthy and active lives.
Obviously, food security has, and will continue to be, a top priority in all societies.
Chronic malnutrition or deficiencies in protein and other key nutrients makes organisms vulnerable to disease and reduces their physical and mental capabilities.
Major shortages in food can lead to elimination of entire populations, and such occurrences are normal and expected in natural environments.
Remember, however, that humans have created a society completely detached from nature.
We have so disconnected ourselves from nature that the majority of our population never feels the effects of food insecurity, and we continue to find new ways of supporting more people than nature intended for our planet.
At this juncture, we need to ask ourselves if altering environmental conditions in order to allow our population to exceed its natural carrying capacity is the right thing to do.
The question is not to be taken lightly, as we must consider our ethical and moral values. Do we stop our food management efforts and let nature take its course? Do we allow people to suffer from chronic malnutrition when we have the technology to prevent it? Morally, the answer is no. However, we are already supporting over 7.5 billion people, so a solution has to lie in the concept of sustainability.
We need to find a way of feeding the existing population, but do so in a manner that does not further degrade the environment.
We must also find ways to control our world's population growth so that we do not meet our inevitable demise, realizing that even the most advanced technology cannot overcome the eventual limitations of available natural resources.
Before tackling these difficult philosophical questions, we must first gain an introduction to the basic concepts in food management.
One of the reasons that food availability has become less of a limiting factor for the human population is our use of industrialized or high-input agriculture.
High-input agriculture relies on fossil fuels, copious amounts of water, commercial inorganic fertilizers, pesticides, and large financial capital.
Often, this kind of agriculture produces only one type of crop, is practiced in most developed countries, and accounts for the majority percentage of the world's food.
Although very profitable, this system relies primarily on fossil fuels. Instead of using direct sunlight as farmers once did, we are literally stealing sunlight that reached our planet millions of years ago and has been stored in the earth.
Now that we are relying on this ancient sunlight to run the process, we must realize that when it's gone, so is our ability to employ high-input agriculture.
There is some good news in that improvements in technology have led to a much more efficient process and higher crop yields, thus slowing down the degradation of natural capital. But this is a double-edged sword in that the system itself is not sustainable.
There are two other methods of agriculture that are much more sustainable but certainly not as profitable.
One combines human and animal labor with current energy from the sun to provide just enough food that is needed for survival.
Another intensifies this effort to produce additional food that can be sold for a profit.
The most important aspect of these methods of agriculture is that they both rely on current, not ancient sunlight. Although not as economically beneficial as high-input agriculture, they are sustainable systems, do not rely on fossil fuels, and are much less destructive to the environment.
Understand that for every parcel of land devoted to agriculture, an equal parcel of natural ecosystem has been destroyed.
Even though the land may be green with vegetation, only a limited number of crop species are being grown, destroying ecosystems and reducing the Earth's biodiversity.
In addition, continued application of high-input agriculture leads to soil erosion, wastewater, air pollution, and the release of chemical and biological toxins into the environment.
Countless rainforest ecosystems have been replaced by single-crop oil palm tree plantations. The palm oil produced can be used as a cooking oil and biodiesel fuel for cars. What other species besides ours benefits from these products?
So far, we have concentrated our discussion on agriculture, but what about livestock?
Meat consumption, although considered a sign of prosperity, is the most inefficient means of obtaining our nutritional needs.
In an earlier unit, you learned that 90% of energy is lost at each trophic level. As a result, the higher a species is on the trophic scale, the greater will be its eventual impact on the planet's energy resources.
You might think that a cow would provide quite a lot of food for humans, but did you consider the amount of grain and water that one cow would need to consume in its lifetime?
As you ponder that question, you begin to understand that more resources than you realized went into that hamburger you just ate.
It should be noted that developed countries often import the grain needed to feed their livestock. In some cases, less developed countries have actually sold their cropland to the more developed ones.
If this practice continues, the poorer countries will not only lose the ability to feed their own people, they will have also degraded the environments in which they live.
Aquaculture, or sustainable fish farming, is the cultivation of marine organisms under controlled conditions in the open sea or in an enclosed section of the ocean.
The practice of fish farming also extends to raising freshwater fish in ponds or underwater cages.
As humans rapidly deplete the world's oceans of fish through wild catch overexploitation, the advances in aquaculture are a good start.
Unfortunately, problems stemming from disease, waste removal issues, and competition with native species are currently preventing aquaculture from becoming a solution to the world's food security problem.
You may have heard that scientists are producing genetically engineered or modified organisms that are easier to grow and provide us with more nutritional value than their natural counterparts.
Genetically modified crops require less fertilizer, pesticides, and water. They grow faster and in some cases exhibit reduced energy needs.
However, it can be argued that these GMOs have unpredictable genetic and ecological effects and may result in the evolution of more pesticide-resistant insects and herbicide-resistant weeds.
These foods also have the potential to disrupt the seed market and lower genetic diversity.
For these and other reasons, genetically engineered foods may not be an ultimate solution to our food security issues.
By the way, you should know that we don't pay the full price for our food.
That's right. If we really had to pay to replace the natural resources that have been depleted in order to produce our food, the cost would be much higher.
In addition, government subsidies assist in keeping food prices low so that citizens will not suffer from malnutrition or deficiencies in key nutrients.
This results in populations that are less vulnerable to disease, healthier, and more productive.
A productive population usually translates into a strong economy. Governments understand this relationship.
A country that has the means to improve its food security is capable of strengthening its national security, and that's food for thought.
Here's your question for Unit 15.
Which of the following demonstrates that a country is achieving a state of food security for its people?
Choice A, providing reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food.
Choice B, reducing reliance on high-input agriculture and investing in sustainable farming.
Choice C, supporting research in aquaculture and genetically modified food sources.
Or Choice D, providing governmental subsidies to offset food prices.
The answer and explanation are provided at the beginning of Unit 16.